large open spaces, or you may
Lung
see
tissue.
very few large open spaces. This tissue tends to tear relatively easily, and it also tends to compress relatively easily. So in this area where I'm under low power, you can see that there's a lot of tissue in this area, but up in here, it tends to be open. That's just irregularities associated with viewing lung tissue. When you slice through it, the little knife that makes these minuscule slices sometimes compresses the tissue in one direction. And the lung is very much like a sponge, with lots of open spaces inside of it. Well, imagine what happens to your sponge when you bring the water out of it. All of those spaces get a lot smaller. That's what happens in many places on these slides. The nice open alveoli get compressed. Sometimes they're completely compressed, sometimes they're almost completely compressed. So it just kind of varies from slide to slide and even region to region in a given slide. But most of all, this is alveoli. Now, as we scan around, here we go, you're also going to be seeing some other structures too. I've got a blood vessel right here, and I know this is very pale, but this is a blood vessel, this is a blood vessel, this is a bronchiole right there. You can also see there's some black material in these areas of the lung. Those are actually alveoli where those black materials are too. That's just particulate matter that's inhaled during normal respiration. If you ever have the opportunity to look at a smoker's lung histologically, you would see this material everywhere. Tars that get down into the alveoli, and they stay there literally for years, sometimes even decades. And of course, tars is where the carcinogens are. So even after you quit smoking, you can still develop lung cancer because those tars are still there 10, 11 years later. As I was looking at my slide, I saw several bronchioles, which are some of the smaller conducting zone structures. The larger ones are called bronchi. And the way you would distinguish them would be not only on size, the bronchi obviously are going to be much larger than this, but you would also see plates of hyaline cartilage supporting the walls of the bronchi. There isn't any hyaline cartilage in this area at all, but if you were to see some plates of hyaline cartilage out here in the supporting tissue, then this would be called a bronchus. But because we don't, it's a bronchiole. Bronchi have plates of hyaline cartilage, bronchioles do not. That's how you tell the difference. Both would have a pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. So if we zoomed in on that, that's what we would see. Every once in a while, somebody will show me a bronchiole that is transitioning into what's called a respiratory bronchiole. And when that happens, you see the epithelium change. Now, I haven't seen any on this slide, and I haven't had anybody point one out to me yet this year, but every once in a great while, you'll see the bronchiole split lengthwise, at least a short direct direction. And if you zoom in on that, at one end you can see that pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium, and then as you track it down, you'll see it transition to a simple columnar epithelium, then a simple cuboidal, then a simple squamous. And you're literally seeing that change in epithelium from conducting zone structures where there is no gas exchange to basically respiratory bronchioles and alveoli where there is gas exchange. So every once in a while you'll spot something like that. It's just kind of a curiosity. It's interesting to see, but he won't ask you anything like that on the practical, but usually people spot one or two here or there and ask me about them, so I thought I'd mention them now. What else have you got on the list?